Respectful lecturer, fellow colleagues, and honorable guests, it is my pleasure to preside this evening debate on the topics Leaders are born not made, and men make better leaders than women. I would like to extend my gratitude to the debaters for their preparation, and your dedication enriches the spirit of the debate. As chairman, I would like to outline the guidelines and structure of tonight's debate and ensure clarity and order. All debaters must address themselves to Madam Speaker at the outset of their speech and throughout the debate. Debaters must always refer to one another in the third person, for example, honorable member. Only one debater at a time may hold the floor of the House by having their microphones unmuted. When the speaker speaks, all debaters must immediately cease speaking and resume their seats. If anyone interrupts another debater and addresses themselves to the speaker, the interrupted debater shall surrender the floor by muting their mic. Heckling is encouraged as long as it is pertinent, brief, and infrequent. However, I wish to remind you to engage respectfully with each other and to listen carefully to each other's viewpoints. This debate is not to argue with one another, but to discuss the complexities of the topic at hand. Each debater will be awarded 5 minutes for introduction and 4 minutes for the first rebuttal. And the second rebuttal will be 5 minutes. And there will be an intermission of 2 minutes after each speaker. Therefore, without delay, let us begin with our proceedings. I now invite the member for the ruling party to present their opening arguments. The floor is yours.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House. Today, the members of this government, Santa Claus from the Ministry of Mistletoe, Mrs. Claus from the Ministry of Toy Distribution, the Grinch from the Ministry of Gingerbread Construction, and Elf from the Ministry of Gift Wrapping, fully supports the motion that leaders are born, not made. This motion indicates that leadership is not learned, but rather a natural ability that a person is born with. Individuals possess these traits long before any form of education, training, or experience. Leadership stands as a significant influence in our world. It impacts nations, organizations, communities, and families. Today, however, we seek to address a critical question. Are leaders born or made? Are leadership traits developed through education and training, or do individuals possess inherent leadership qualities from birth? The government confidently agrees that leadership is fundamentally based on innate traits. And throughout this debate, we will provide real-life examples, theories, statistics, historical facts, and observable human behaviors to support this viewpoint. To begin our justification, we will start with a quote from John C. Maxwell, a recognized author and leadership expert. He said, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, shows the way." This quote reflects exactly what we believe, that leadership begins from foundation and natural ability. It significantly declares qualities that cannot be learned. It represents confidence, instinct, charisma, and self-direction. As we explore this topic, you will understand why we stand confidently on this side. By the end of this presentation, you will firmly believe that leaders are born, not made. Madam Speaker, our belief is grounded by two main points. Our first point is successful leaders often show leadership from a young age. Many accomplished leaders exhibit attributes at an early age during childhood, long before formal instructions or education has begun. As the debate unfolds, the Ministry of Gingerbread Construction will elaborate with examples and facts based on familiar leaders to support this point. Our second point is some people are simply just born with natural qualities that make them inclined towards leadership, such as charisma or confidence. To support this point, I'm going to share scientific data that reinforces our conviction that inherent talent plays a crucial role in becoming a leader. According to a twin study published in Twin Research and Human Genetics, an estimation of 59% of variance in transformational leadership traits could be explained by genetics. This evidence indicated that personality traits are heritable. Another research conducted by the University College London indicated that a specific gene variant named RS4950 appears to be associated with the passing of leadership ability down through generations. These 2 points combined give us the confidence to stand firm in our belief that leaders are born, not made. Thank you.
Member, thank you. We will proceed with our 2 minutes intermission. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we have approached the end of our first intermission. I would like to invite the Speaker of the House of Representatives to proceed with their argument. The floor is now yours.
Good evening, Madam Speaker, the Government, and House. I am Harley Quinn, the representative for Madness, and today my team and I, the Rebellions, which consists of Loki, representative for Mischief, Maleficent, representative for Curses, Green Arrow, representative for Arrogance, Jack Sparrow, representative for Scallywags, stand before you this evening to dismantle the notion that leaders are born, not made. You know, the legendary American football coach Vince Lombardi once said, leaders are made, they are not born. They are made by hard effort, which is the price which all of us must pay to achieve any goal that is worthwhile. Have you ever stopped to wonder since when leadership became defined by your genetic predisposition? Are some special for the position and some not? Who are qualified to be born leaders? Take a walk with me here. Madam Speaker, leadership is a journey and a never ending one at that. People change every day, businesses evolve, but you will always be learning, and that can never be formed in the 9 months that it takes for you to get here. When we look around, we see so many different leaders from around the world. Whether good or bad, that is subjective. But one thing remains, they have learned to operate in that position. According to the Leadership Quarterly, at least 70% of leadership qualities can be learned and developed. Some may argue that the next 30% depends on who you are and how you are, but the majority of work to become a leader depends on your willingness to learn and understand what it takes to be a leader. Because look at this, the public still has to come up on public platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to hold leaders accountable. Children still have to be socialized and conditioned to operate amicably in society with others. We still have to tell children sharing is caring, to be nice. So does that not bring us to the conclusion that we have to teach people to be leaders and a good one at that? I mean, the movie Boss Baby can argue with me that maybe this can be proven if you drink enough super baby milk, but everything that you do, know, and say is learned behavior. Let me break this down. Learned behavior is an action or a reaction that a person acquires through experiences, practice, or observation. Leadership is not an innate behavior. If you were born with everything that you know, what would there be left to learn? One thing remains true in our position in this debate, Madam Speaker. A leader is one that is shaped and grown from their life experiences, not their genetic makeup. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member. We will now proceed with our 2 minutes intermission. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded our second intermission. I would like to invite the speaker for our first rebuttal to proceed. The floor is now yours.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, the Ministry of Gingerbread Construction will address the point, successful leaders often show leadership from a young age. A very strong reason to agree with the statement, leaders are born, not made, is that many of the world's most influential leaders showed signs of leadership at a very young age, long before they received any training. Their personalities, confidence, and natural abilities were visible in childhood, proving that some people are simply born with the qualities that make others want to follow them. Madam Speaker, let's look at Nelson Mandela for example. Nelson Mandela was a political leader whose courage, compassion, and his commitment to social justice and a culture of freedom continues to inspire the world. He is often remembered as one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century. But what many people don't know is that his leadership traits appeared early in life. As a young boy in his village, Mandela was already known for his fairness, bravery, a strong sense of justice, and the ability to unite people. Madam Speaker, let's look at Serena Williams, for example. Leadership doesn't only happen in politics, it happens in sports as well. As we know, in sports, team leaders often show their qualities from a young age. Serena Williams began playing tennis at a very young age, and from the start, she demonstrated intense focus, strong self belief, emotional strength, and a natural ability to motivate others. As she grew up, these traits made her a leader in the world of sports. While coaching improved her technical skills, her mindset, the leadership part, was already inside her. Madam Speaker, what do these examples prove? When we look at these leaders, a clear pattern appears. One, they didn't wait for training or leadership courses. And two, their leadership qualities were visible at a very early age. This strongly supports the idea that leaders are born, not made. Madam Speaker, these examples show that leadership often appears long before school and university. Many of the world's greatest leaders started acting like leaders as children or teenagers. This makes it very clear that the foundations of leadership come from natural personality traits, hence supporting the argument that leaders are born, not made. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, thank you, member. We will proceed now with our 2 minutes intermission. Ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded our intermission. I would like to invite a member of the House of Representatives to proceed with their first rebuttal. The floor is now yours.
Good evening, Madam Speaker, Honorable Government Team, distinguished witnesses, and respected members of the House. I am Green Arrow, representative of Arrogance. I rise to address and dismantle the arguments presented by the honorable members of the government. The government claims that leaders are born, that leadership is genetic. Madam Speaker, this is scientifically inaccurate and historically incorrect. Traits are not destiny. Modern psychology proves that personality changes significantly from childhood to adulthood. Harvard University's study of adult development shows personality continues developing throughout life, meaning no one is born fixed as a leader. Emotional intelligence improves with training. Daniel Goleman's research found that 90% of leadership success is linked to emotional intelligence, and EI can be taught and developed. Communication and confidence grow through practice. Public speaking organizations such as Toastmasters International have decades of evidence showing measurable improvements in confidence and communication through training. Even genetic predispositions do not guarantee leadership. A person may be naturally outgoing, but without mentorship, training, emotional control, and discipline, they will still be a poor leader. Science is clear. Natural traits do not alone produce leadership, development does. The government confuses potential with leadership. Yes, some individuals may start with natural advantages, but potential is not leadership. Just like a tall person who has potential for basketball, they will still lose to someone who trains daily. Similarly, leadership requires training, discipline, knowledge, decision-making, emotional maturity, and real-world experience. None of these come from birth. The American Psychological Association states leadership is shaped primarily by environment, education, and experience, not genetics. The University of London found that leadership effectiveness increases with exposure to challenging experiences, proven learned development. Leadership programs prove leaders are made. Military academies, police training, business schools, nursing leadership programs. These institutions historically take ordinary people and transform them into leaders. Billions are spent worldwide on leadership development because it works, it is proven, and it is necessary. If leadership were born, these programs would not produce consistent, measurable success. The US Army Leadership Development documents significant improvements in leadership skills after structured training. The corporate training research from McKinsey shows companies with leadership programs perform up to 30% better in culture, performance, and moral. It is illogical to claim leaders are born while the entire world invests in making them. Madam Speaker, let me present one of the clearest real-life examples that destroys the born leader illusion. Oprah Winfrey. If leadership were inherited, Oprah should not be the leader she is today. She was born in extreme poverty in rural Mississippi. She faced abuse, instability, and trauma growing up. She had no family history of leadership, no wealth, no inherited advantage. She wore dresses made from potato sacks because she had nothing else. Her background proves she was not born into leadership by any traditional measure. Yet, Madam Speaker, she learned public speaking through school. She developed communication skills through training. She gained emotional intelligence by surviving hardship. She built leadership capacity over decades of work, and she became a self-made billionaire, global media mogul, and leader of social impact. Nothing about Oprah's life supports the government's claim. Everything about her success supports ours. Leaders are made, not born. Leadership is earned, developed, and created, not born. I now yield the floor.
Member, thank you. We will proceed with our second 2 minutes intermission. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded our intermission. I would now invite the member to proceed with their second rebuttal and conclusion. Member, please note, no additional points is to be stated in the second rebuttal. The floor is now yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, and respected opponents. I am an elf from the Ministry of Gift Wrapping, and I must say that it is truly a privilege to stand before you all here today as the second speaker of the affirmative team to discuss the often debated topic of leadership, more specifically, the discussion on whether leaders are born or made. My esteemed colleague, the Grinch, has already laid out a very strong foundation, and I am taking the stand now to build more upon her points by presenting further compelling arguments for the case of leaders who are, at their core, born with the potential for greatness. If training alone created leaders, then everyone who attends a workshop, university, or job program would emerge as a leader. But training only creates skill, not personality. Leadership requires instinct, decision making under pressure, emotional strength, and charisma, traits that you cannot teach through a textbook. I would like to start off by stating that there are currently two hypotheses that contribute towards the notion that leadership qualities are inherent and not developed through experience or education. My two main hypotheses that support these ideas are one, the great the great man theory and the trait theory. First, the great man theory. It was developed by a Scottish historian, Thomas Carlyle, in the 19th century. This theory persists that leaders are born with specific exceptional traits that enable them to influence others. Carlyle famously stated, "The history of the world is but the biography of great men." In the power those in power possesses unique gifts that justify their leadership roles, suggesting that all great leaders share certain characteristics regardless of their time or place. The next theory is the trait theory. This theory builds on the great man theory, asserting that leaders have innate traits that qualify them for leadership. Leadership effectiveness stems from a combination of personality, physical attributes, and intelligence. Identifying individuals with the right traits can enhance organizational performance. Some supporting evidence for this theory include genetic and leadership. Research indicates a genetic basis for leaderships with studies linking specific genetic markers to leadership roles. Intelligence. Influential leaders often possess above average intelligence, which can be partially inherited. A study found that a mother's IQ is a strong predictor of her child's intelligence, although environmental factors also play a significant role. Psychological attributes. Traits such as extroversion, neuro- neuroticism, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and openness, the Big Five, are believed to have heritable components influencing leadership potential. Geographical factors. Research shows that geographic location can impact leadership potential. For instance, Hong Kong has the highest number of current leaders. Mexico is noted for having the most future leaders. Factors such as educational resources and parental support can enhance leadership opportunities. Now, historical examples. Notable leaders like sorry, Queen Boudica, King Henry VIII, and Queen Victoria exemplify traits associated with natural leadership, demonstrating the theory's relevance throughout history. To conclude, Madam Speaker, we at the Ministry of Wrapping Paper strongly believe that leaders are in fact born and not made. We hope that we have successfully argued our case that the foundation of leadership does not lie in acquired skills, but that they are inherent qualities that individuals possess from the start. I thank you for your time, patience, and undivided attention. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for your argument. At this time, we will now proceed with our 2-minute intermission. And before we go on intermission, members, remember your time, please, that you have 5 minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our intermission is up. I would now invite the House of Representatives to proceed with their second rebuttal and conclusion. No additional points is to be presented in the second rebuttal. The floor is now yours.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, I, Jack Sparrow, representative of Scallywags, rise today to oppose the motion before us that leaders are born, not made. To accept this motion would be to reduce leadership to a matter of accident of birth, a privilege bestowed upon a chosen few. I submit to this House that such a notion is not only outdated, but dangerous. Leadership is not a birthright, it is forged through experience, education, and deliberate practice. If leaders were only born, then progress itself would be impossible. Madam Speaker, let us begin with the evidence. As the government kept noting, genetics play a part, but as themselves added, environment plays a role. The Center for Creative Leadership surveyed executives across the globe. Their findings were clear. A majority, 52%, believe leaders are made. Only 19% cling to the idea that leaders are born. This House must recognize that leadership is overwhelmingly shaped by learning and experience, not genetics. If leaders were only born, why would seasoned executives invest in structured development? Why would organizations dedicate resources to cultivating leadership capacity? The answer is simple, because leadership can be learned. Madam Speaker, the International Journal of Applied Research states unequivocally, leaders are born Leaders are not born, they are made. The article highlights that leadership is situational and contextual. Great leaders, such as Nelson Mandela, who the government brought up across history, did not inherit leadership. They chose to lead, develop themselves, and grew through persistence and courage. This House must therefore reject the myth of the born leader and embrace the truth that leadership is cultivated. To claim otherwise is to deny the lived reality of countless leaders who rose from humble beginnings. Honorable members, consider the implications of the motion. If we accept that leaders are born, we exclude talent, discourage growth, and confine leadership to a narrow elite. We would be telling aspiring leaders, do not bother, for you were not born with the gift. But if we affirm that leaders are made, we empower individuals at all levels to rise, to learn, and to lead. We create a culture of continuous learning and adaptability, where leadership is not the preserve of the few, but the responsibility of the many. This inclusive approach strengthens organizations, communities, and nations. Madam Speaker, history itself bears witness. Abraham Lincoln, born into poverty, was self-educated and rose to become one of the greatest presidents in history. Nelson Mandela, as they brought up before, forged by hardship and struggle, became a global symbol of justice and reconciliation. Even in the corporate world, Howard Schultz of Starbucks rose from modest beginnings to global leadership. None of these figures were born leaders. They were made by circumstance, discipline, and growth. Their journeys prove that leadership is not inherited, it is earned. The proposition may argue that some individuals are natural leaders, but I submit that natural ability without development is a wasted potential. Charisma alone cannot sustain leadership. A person may be born confident, but without empathy, discipline, and vision, they will fail. Leadership is not about being born with traits, it is about cultivating them into consistent, ethical, and effective practice. Madam Speaker, honorable members, I therefore urge us all to reject the motion. For if leaders were only born, societies will never evolve. It is because leaders are made that progress is possible. I rest my case.
Members, thank you for your arguments. I would like to proceed with our 8 minutes assessment.